2016 is going to go down as a memorable year for everybody, for better or for worse, depending on which side of the fence you fall on. Whether this is personal, professional, political, but for the avid or recreational music fan, that statement has both bitter and sweet connotations. This year has seen some great moments in music and has seen the release of some truly incredible projects. On the other hand, we've seen the deaths of many legendary music icons that have understandably shocked many a fan to the core. Just to name a few, we've had David Bowie at the beginning of the year, Prince from a few months back, and only very recently, Canadian singer-songwriter poet Leonard Cohen, whose 12th and final album, You Want It Darker, was released roughly 3 weeks back. And speaking of David Bowie, if this album could be compared to anything else that has come out this year, it would be the aforementioned artist's final album, Black Star. The album notably being Bowie's acceptance and admittance that his time on Earth was drawing to an end on that particular project, and Cohen himself seems to be doing the same thing. From the very beginning of the project, the titular track uses very brooding language and suggests that Cohen is accepting himself up to God, that he's ready to be taken away to the afterlife and is accepting of his ever-decreasing time on Earth. The track also has a very heavy religious undertone, something that's very common among many of Leonard's songs, questioning God's omnipotence and voicing his confusion over God's apparent inactivity, especially during the Holocaust of World War II, which is highly implicated on the fourth verse of the song. On this track, Leonard often repeats the line "blowing out the flame," which appears again on Leaving the Table. Whilst on one hand that song references Leonard's surrendering feelings of anger and frustration with people and issues in his life not worth worrying about anymore, as well as snuffing out the metaphorical flame of love, it also carries another connotation of extinguishing life's flame. Again, Leonard accepting that death is just around the corner for him. The theme of dying relationships is also covered on this album. First on the song Treaty, where Cohen reflects on letting go of a former lover, despite still harbouring some feelings for this person. He admits to being angry and tired after all of the fights, conflicts and arguments, wishing for the pair of them to find some common ground but are unable to do so, and eventually the two part ways. A similar theme is found on the preceding track, On the Level, only this time Cohen's language is much harsher, likening an ex to the devil, yet in the same breath calls her an angel, finding difficulty in fully letting go since this woman's fragrance still lingers wherever he goes. He also makes reference to his period during the 90s where he spent his time as a Zen Monk, yet despite his desire to focus on something different, he still finds it a challenge to fully forget. And the song Travelling Light, where my description of dying relationships becomes quite literal, reading as an ode to Leonard's first love, Marianne Ilhun, who died of leukemia during the summer of this year. And underneath the surface, you can definitely see the inclination that Leonard believed that he was nearing death, and ends the song with the hope that he would see Marianne on the other side soon. There does appear some comfort in the form of If I Didn't Have Your Love. On first glance, you wouldn't have thought that this was a song that would have a flickering light of hope at the end of the verses, since the imagery created is quite bleak, destitute and cold. But at the end, Leonard can only thank his lover for being there and guiding him away from the feelings of hopelessness and loneliness. Now onto the instrumentation, and as should be no surprise to anyone, this for the most part takes on a tone that matches the destitution and finality this album emanates, and along with Cohen's low, growling vocal delivery, you cannot help but be gripped by said finality. The church organ is very prominent on this album, appearing on tracks like the opening titular track, where it just bubbles underneath the harmonising backing vocalists, which give off a haunting vibe throughout. It appears again on Treaty with the piano and string arrangement combination, which includes low drawn out strokes, bass prominent staccato notes and plucked double bass strings. It's a real lump in the throat moment that resonates so deep, and it's the most prominent instrument on If I Didn't Have Your Love, which includes a gentle and simple guitar solo in the bridge. Elsewhere, the instrumentation is simply gorgeous, from the lute piano melody with the rather subtle drum inclusion on the level, along with the beautiful backing vocalists. It has a great amount of light and shade to it. Leaving the Table has this smoky, almost musky country flavour with the opening electric guitar piece, acoustic guitar strums and the tremolo violin strings that are simply gorgeous, along with the just noticeable slide guitar. The acoustic guitar on Travelling Light gives the song a Spanish flair, with the synth keyboard having a jazz flavour to it as well. It seemed better that way, where the backing harmonists provide the backdrop and the only instruments to appear is the violin, bongo drums, maraca, and you can just make out a synth lingering in the background. Steer Your Way, where nothing other than a string quartet provides the instrumentation, and the string reprise / treaty piece, which closes the album, is nothing if not pure beauty when Cohen delivers the closing lines from the chorus of Treaty, which is enough to send anyone over the edge. Now, this album isn't without its flaws. Sometimes the instrumentation can be a little testy with its very melancholic tone, and personally, the song Steer Your Way feels very bloated and overstuffed in terms of its over-reliance on religious language and feels kind of try-hard, but overall, it's another fine Leonard Cohen album and a great one to go out on.